Hi, AP people. It's your teacher, Mr. Foglino. We're about to start. Now, first thing I want to get out there is this class is going to be very different from any class you've ever taken. The biggest way it's going to be different is I'm going to be expecting more of you than has been asked in the past. Basically, I'm going to treat you all like college kids. Now, a big part of the college experience is this, and I'll tell you, and listen to me real careful right now, because this is something that took me a little while to figure out when I was in college. So I'm going to put it right out there for you. It's kind of like a big secret, okay? So I remember I was taking a government class. Now, I've always been a little bit of a history nerd, so I was doing really well in this class, and I was kicking butt, and knew my stuff definitely. And then I remember I got the test, and there was a bunch of stuff on the test that I had never known before, and I was like, wait a minute, we didn't cover this in class. And I realized something. That's the stuff that was from the textbook that we didn't go over in class. So, yes, you have a textbook. You're required to read the textbook. I'm going to give you the stuff ahead of time. Make sure you get it done. The other big secret in this one's the key to the success. Okay? You have to prepare for the class before the class. Now, what's that mean? That means that when you come to class, I'm going to have stuff prepared for us to do. And that stuff is going to be working on the assumption that you've done the work. If you haven't done the work, you are going to be so lost, it's not even funny. Okay? So, read the textbooks, do the homework prior to class. Those are going to be the two big keys to the success of the class, because I'm not going to be doing the teaching in the class. Okay? The way I'm going to be doing the teaching is through the videos that we're going to see right now. So I'm not going to be having classes where I do lectures. Or if I do, it's going to be maximum once a week. Okay? And the reason that is because we have to practice. We got to develop stuff. We got to work on your skills. And we're going to unpack those skills so that we can train you to be awesome history students that are going to take that AP exam and conquer the damn thing. Okay? Now trust me, that test has teeth. It will tear you apart if you're not prepared. So we're going to work to get you prepared. The way we do that, you read the textbook and you do the videos. Okay, so I got that out of the way. Let's dive into this lesson. Now, the first lesson is going to be a little shorter, but it's going to help me to explain some things and how we're going to do things. So, I've got a question up here. That's our big question. What impact did geography play on the development of the Americas? And your homework question, yes, you'd have to turn it in. How has the geography of the United States both helped and hindered the development of the nation? Okay, first lesson with AP. We have to understand what the question's asking us. How has the geography? By geography, we mean the land and the features of the land. And it's narrowed to the United States. How has it helped and hindered? Okay, helped, we know what that word means. Help means it allows something to develop. Okay? It kind of pushes it along. It gives it the hand that it needs to become what it could be. Hindered is the opposite. Hindered is something that's going to stop you from being what you want to be, right? So if I wanted to help you with your homework, I'd ask you some questions to get you thinking about some stuff. If I wanted to hinder you from doing your homework, I wouldn't give you everything that you needed to do it. Okay? So helped and hindered the development of the nation. Okay, so development of the nation, meaning the country that we have today, it has developed because of geography. How is that? And how is the geography helped us to develop into the country that we are? And how is it kept us from developing into something else? Okay? So I hope that makes sense. All right. Let's take a look at our country. Okay? Now, this is our world here. Okay? And I'm coming in from the poles for very specific reasons. So, first thing, okay, we know what a map is all about. Okay? So if we take a look, we know the green, we have vegetation. All right? We know that the brown, we have desert. And then we can see that we also have mountains because it shows us some topography as well. Now, the yellow borders, of course, those are political borders. They don't exist in nature. That's the makeup of the countries. Okay? So let's go way, way back. We have 7 continents. Okay? Now, these 7 continents all used to be pushed in together. They made the supercontinent of Pangaea. And a long, long time ago, well before humans ever existed, these continents drifted apart and they took on the shapes that they have now. Okay, something a little more recent for humans that we need to consider. All right, up here, this is the North Pole. In the North Pole, we have ice caps. We have giant glaciers. Now, they're melting, and that's going to be a huge problem for the world, but that's not what we're concerned about right now. So, periodically throughout the history of the world, there have been what are called ice ages. And basically, those ice ages are when the world does the exact opposite of what it's doing right now. Right now, the Earth is warming. In an ice age, the Earth cools. And as the Earth cools, the water will condense and basically form ice. So, basically, gigantic glaciers were formed. Glaciers far bigger than the glaciers that we have today. Now, where is the water going to come from to form those glaciers? Well, it's going to come from the water on the planet. It's going to come from the water of the oceans. And as more glaciers are formed, then that's going to be less water there. And as that water is going to be sucked up into those glaciers, there's going to, the level of the land is going to be much, much higher. Okay? So, if we take a look, you know, we can kind of see some ridges here, and we can see some topography with the land. Think about when you go to a beach, all right? If you go to a beach, you step in the water, and you walk out in the water, and as you walk out, you're gradually going down. There's land under the water. And the less water there is, the more land there is. So that's what basically happened back then. Okay, there's less water, there's more glaciers. Now, the glaciers moved, and they moved their way down the continents. And as they went, they basically are gigantic sheets of ice gouging themselves into the land, and sometimes physically pushing the land into place. All right? So if we take a look at Hudson Bay up here, okay, this is way up north in Canada. It's very cold. This is tundra. It's permafrost. All right? And if you take a look at that bay, you see how it's got irregular shapes, and we got islands there, and it's kind of here. Well, this bay is the legacy of the glaciers. So let's go down. Let's take a look. All right? I'm going to zoom in. Okay? So we see how the land is here. Now, we see how there's the bay, and here's a river. The Masoni River. Okay? That river is gouged from glaciers. Carved all the way down. This is the passage of former glaciers. Okay? So as we come down, it's going to take a second to load this. You see all those tiny little lakes? Those are carved out by glaciers. The glaciers left those lakes there. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay? All those 1,000 lakes that we see, all those tiny little spots of blue, those are all from the glaciers. They carved them. Something even bigger that's going to be a big thing for us. Down here, you see these? The Great Lakes. Okay? These Great Lakes, and they're called Great Lakes because they're huge and they're fresh water. Those are also carved by the glaciers. If you ever go into Manhattan, and if you ever go into some of the parks, you see giant rocks that are kind of just sitting there. Those are left by glaciers. Oops. Manhattan Island was caused by the Ice Age. Let's zoom in. Okay, zoom in. This is geography of New York City, by the way. Okay? So it's going to load up for a second. Connection's going to take a minute. Alright. So, we got the Bronx up here. That's where we are. We are right there. Okay? Now, we also have over here, we've got the island of Long Island, and that contains Queens and Brooklyn. It's labeled Kings because that's Kings County. And then we got New York over here. Alright, so Manhattan's an island. Surrounded on 4 sides by water. Now, if you take a look, that obviously used to be connected to Long Island, and obviously used to be connected over here. Okay? It's just barely broken apart from the Bronx. So what caused it to break apart like that? That's easy. It was the glaciers. The glaciers were what caused it to break apart. Okay? Now, these glaciers are going to be very important because they shape the land. They give us the features that we know of today. Those Great Lakes are going to be incredibly important. The rivers are going to be incredibly important. But also the glaciers are going to be important for one other thing. Remember how I told you that when the Earth cools, we're forming glaciers, and to form those glaciers, we're going to need more water, so the sea level drops. Now, if we go over here, let's take a look. Here's an interesting trivia question. What are the 2 closest countries to or the 3 closest countries to the United States? Okay, Mexico and Canada, obviously because they bordered them. And the third one is Russia. Russia? Yeah, Russia. Okay, if we take a look right here, this is a very small distance of land. This is Russia. This is Alaska. The Bering Strait right here is about 13 miles. That's what separates Asia from North America. That's it, about 13 miles. Now, you've got to remember, there's land under that water. So, during the last ice age, what happened? The water is going to condense to make ice, and that's going to expose land. There was land right here. So what happened? Well, we know humanity is going to start all the way over in Africa. We knew that happened. And then humanity, long, long ago, spread into Europe and Asia because all of these continents are connected. The Eurasian landmass. Well, sometime about 10,000 years ago, during the last ice age, that little gap right there was connected by land because the sea level was lower. So what happened? People started moving across. They started going from one continent to the other. And they migrated. Why are they migrating? They're migrating in search of food. This is before we invented farming. Okay? Oops. So, what do people do? Well, they start to migrate. They start to move. And over time, they're going to move down in chase of the herds through this continent. And they're going to go from that continent completely to the other one down here. And that's how we got Native Americans. So Native Americans actually started in the same place that everybody else did. It's just they migrated. And then they got trapped. Because when the Ice Age finally ended, and the sea level went back to where it is today, now this area right here is covered by water. So the continents of North and South America are going to develop completely independently from the continents, the people I'm talking about, the continents of Asia and Africa. Okay? We got to understand that, because that's going to be critical. When we talk about Columbus, we talk about the discovery, we talk about everything. We have to understand that. Okay? So the American continents, North and South America, are isolated. They're not connected to Europe, Asia, and Africa. That's where most of human history is going to be. That's where most of humanity is going to develop. So the two continents are arranged north and south. As you're traveling, you're going through different climatic zones. Think about it. When you go south, it gets warmer. When you go north, it gets colder. Okay? You go to Canada, it's going to be a lot colder than it's going to be in Mexico. We know this. Now, that's going to basically make it a problem, because people here are going to be in a different climate than people here. And they're not going to be able to travel as easily to interact with each other. People in Europe and Asia are going to be able to interact with each other. They're going to be able to share technology, cultural diffusion. It's not going to happen so much in America. That's going to be why when Columbus and his goons come over, the technology they have is going to be so much superior. They're not smarter. They're just able to interact with other people easier. And the peoples in the Americas are going to be isolated. They're not going to be talking to each other. Or they're going to be talking to each other far less than the people of Asia and Europe and Africa. So, we know this. We just went over this. This shows the migration patterns from the Ice Age. Okay? The glaciers. This shows the ice sheets right here. This was all glaciers. Carved out the world that we know today. Okay? So this shows where the people migrated from. The Bering Land Bridge. They come over. They come all the way down. They figured it out. Now, there's also another theory out there. This is something to keep in mind, because with history, we're only as good as the evidence that we have. And we're starting to find some evidence that they may have come over on primitive boats. And they may have come down along the coast. That's still out there. We don't have the evidence for that yet fully, but that looks to be like it could be a possible idea as well. Okay, so those are the first Americans. Now, let's talk about the actual geography of America. Okay? So, the Great Lakes. The glaciers are going to carve those out. The glaciers are also going to carve the Mississippi watershed. So, what's the Mississippi watershed? This is the Mississippi watershed. You see that? The Mississippi River basically goes through the entire continent. And it's got a bunch of feeder rivers like the Missouri and the Ohio and the Arkansas that also feed to other states. Why is water so important? Think back to global travel, trade, movement of goods, farming. That watershed, that water system is basically going to contribute to the fertility of the soil. It's going to allow people to farm better. It's going to allow them to move their stuff better. So, if we go back here, we have an entire network that is going to be carved out through that network, through those rivers and through those lakes. So basically, the entire interior of the country, until we get to the far west, where we start to see climate change when we get to the Rockies, that's going to be some of the best farmland in the world. Now, how do we get to that? Well, there's going to be another hindrance right here. Okay, we got a mountain range. Small mountain range. There's a mountain range. See this right here? These bands that go up through the land? These are the Appalachian Mountains. Okay? They're in New York as the Catskills. Those mountains are going to cut off this interior part of the country from the coast. So that means development. Most of the early colonies are going to set up right here. Why? Because that's the easiest to get to from Europe. Okay? You sail a ship, you come over, you can settle along here. Okay? That's going to be the beginning of the country. That's where most of the population resides today. That's where we are. We're here in New York. We're one of the first colonies. Okay? It's not a coincidence. Well, once we figure out how to get in here, and it's going to be New York that's going to be able to do it. The reason why New York is the largest city in the United States, and New York is so big, because we actually make a man-made river. We're going to learn about this more, but in the 1800s, what we're going to do, let me straighten this out so we can see where we are. Okay, see that river right there? That's the Hudson River. Now, New York's awesome. Alright, there's the ocean. Coney Island's down here. And if you take a look, there's a bay. Right there. That's where the horizontal bridge is. And you come up here and that's New York Harbor. Well, you can sail up the Hudson River. Sail up the Hudson River. All the way up. Okay, this is all the Hudson River. And then we're going to get up to Albany. Okay, now in Albany there was another river. I don't know if you can find it out here. It's called the Mohawk River. Well, it's not showing up on the map. Basically, we followed the Mohawk River. And this is a gap between the mountains, right here, around Albany. Okay, you see this right here? You got mountains up here, you got mountains down here, we got a gap right here. So they followed the Mohawk River, and then there was just this little gap between the Mohawk River and the Great Lakes. What we did is we dug a canal. We dug a canal that went from the Mohawk River to Lake Erie, and that was called the Erie Canal. What did the Erie Canal do? Well, the Erie Canal made it possible to sail from Europe or any other place to New York, up the Hudson River, across New York State, into Lake Erie. And then once you're in Lake Erie, you can get to all these other Great Lakes up in here. And once you're in there, you can get to the Mississippi River. And if you can get to the Mississippi River, guess what? You can sail all the way down here to the Gulf of Mexico. You just opened up the country. That's the glaciers. That's our farmland. That's what feeds us right there. And that's what made New York so important. Okay, let's go back. That's your question. That's your homework. Okay? So come in tomorrow prepared to discuss that, and then we're going to take a look at some maps. I'm going to put another link up here. I'm going to put another video up where I'm going to help you look at some of those maps so you can come in prepared to do the project. I'm not going to go into this painstaking detail to explain every little thing in future videos, but I just wanted to basically set things up and set the tone for us here. Okay? So if you have any questions, you can email me, you can text me, and we'll start off class with a quiz tomorrow. Make sure you're paying attention. and then we'll have a little open discussion before we get into the project. Okay? So, hope you learned something, and as always, I am available for your questions. Okay, everybody, thank you.